When we think about the psychology of influence, Robert Cialdini's name is usually at the top of the list. His first book was a total game changer. But his follow-up, Pre-Suasion, well, it uncovers something even deeper. The real secret to getting a yes often has nothing to do with your actual request. It's all about what happens before you even ask. So let's dive into this hidden art of influence.
I mean, you've wondered this, right? You meet someone, maybe a salesperson, a leader, or just a friend, and they seem to have this superpower. They can get anyone on board with their ideas. How do they do it? Is it some kind of magic, or are they just born with it?
Well, Cialdini says we're usually looking in the completely wrong place. We tend to focus on the pitch itself, the arguments, the logic, the specific words they use. But the real work, the real magic, it isn't happening there.
The secret is all in the setup. It's about what the most effective people do in those crucial moments before they deliver their message. They're essentially priming the pump, getting you ready to be receptive.
So what exactly is this moment before? Well, Cialdini went out and studied the absolute best performers in their fields, and he found they all had this one incredible thing in common. He gave it a name, Pre-Suasion. And look, this isn't about manipulation or trickery. It's more like gardening. You're just preparing the soil before you plant the seed. You're making sure your message has the best possible chance to grow.
And this part is so important. The absolute masters of influence, they spend most of their time and energy designing the moment leading up to their pitch, not just the pitch itself. Let me give you a fantastic real-world example of this.
So a consultant friend of Cialdini's was having trouble with clients pushing back on his fee. So he tried a little experiment. He started his fee discussion with this joke, and right after saying that, he'd state his actual price. And just like that, the objections vanished. So why did that work? It's a powerful psychological trigger called anchoring. By tossing out that massive, almost ridiculous number, $1 million, he set a mental anchor in their minds. So when he revealed his actual fee of $75,000, it suddenly seemed really, really reasonable in comparison. He persuaded them into seeing his price as a bargain.
Okay, so how can we start using this? Cialdini breaks it all down into 3 key ideas. The very first one is all about learning how to command attention.
Here's the core principle, and it's incredibly simple but so powerful. Whatever we happen to be paying attention to at any given moment, our brain automatically assumes it's more important. It's a mental shortcut. Basically, where attention goes, importance flows. So if that's true, it means one of the most powerful things you can do is not to argue with someone, but to simply shift their focus. Think about a politician who gets asked about the high costs of a new project. They're not going to argue about the costs, are they? No way. They'll immediately pivot to talking about all the jobs it's going to create. They just redirect your attention.
And if you want to see just how powerful this is, check out this Canadian study. Researchers asked one group of people if they were unhappy with their social lives. They were a staggering 375% more likely to say they were unhappy than another group who was simply asked if they were happy. The question itself directed their attention and literally shaped their answer.
So how do you grab that attention in the first place? Cialdini says there are 3 primal triggers that are almost impossible for our brains to ignore. The first is sex and attraction. That's why you see attractive models in pretty much every ad. The second is danger or threats. Think about scary health warnings. And the third is novelty, anything new or different, like a single bright pink envelope and a stack of plain white ones.
But look, grabbing attention is one thing. Holding it is the real challenge. And the secret to keeping someone engaged, make it about them. The single most powerful word you can use is you. When you make the conversation about them, their life, their interests, it becomes almost magnetic.
Okay, so once you have someone's attention, the next step, key number 2, is to create a feeling of shared identity. It's all about cultivating a sense of unity.
And it all comes down to this one tiny 2-letter word, we. This might be the single most persuasive word in the English language. Because when you use it, you're signaling that you're part of the same team, the same tribe. You're moving from you and me to us.
And you see this everywhere once you start looking. A sports fan doesn't say the team lost, they say we lost. People talk about our church or our neighborhood. But the most powerful form of we on the planet, it's family. If you can tap into the feelings associated with family, you create an unbelievably strong bond.
And that powerful feeling of unity leads us right into our third and final key. This is about building mental bridges.
these little associations in someone's mind that they might not even be aware of. It's the art of creating connections.
Just think about how masterfully brands do this. If I say Mercedes, what's the first word that pops into your head? Probably luxury. If I say Walmart, you probably think low prices. These companies have spent billions to persuade us, to build that instant, automatic connection in our brains.
And here's a genius example of how this works on a personal level. Cialdini tells a story about a top-performing home alarm salesman. Right in the middle of his presentation, he'd act like he forgot something important in his car. Then he'd ask the homeowner, "Hey, would you mind if I just let myself out and back in?" Now stop and think about that. Who are the only people you let walk freely in and out of your house? Family, people you trust completely. With that one simple move, he created a mental connection between himself and that deep level of trust. Brilliant, right?
Okay, let's bring this all together. We've covered a lot, so let's distill it down into a simple framework you can actually start using. Think of this as your personal Pre-Suasion playbook.
So here are the 3 keys to remember. First, attention. Think about where people's focus is and how you can guide and hold it. Second, unity. Ask yourself, how can I create a feeling of we, of a shared identity? And third, connections. What positive ideas are you linking to yourself and your message?
You know, mastering these 3 keys is really the difference between your message just being heard and your message actually being embraced. The true art of influence doesn't begin when you start speaking. It begins with how you set the stage. So the real question for you is, how are you going to start setting your stage?